All right, well, hi everybody. Welcome to a special episode focusing on integral leadership, embodied integral practice, and especially some upcoming integral events that we want to talk about. And I'm joined by T. Poling and Bett Bollhoefer and Lisa Norton, and we're going to just take a little time to explore what they've got to offer. Bett reached out to me several weeks ago about this event that they're going to be putting on next year in April, and just asked how can we get the word out about this and let more people know about it. So that's a big part of our conversation today, and I'm particularly interested in it because of how I've been occupied for the past year, which is in developing a leadership program, Blue Sky Leaders. And we're also launching next year at the end of January. And the end of this month is the end of our application period. So this is my last opportunity to get a little word out about what we're doing. So we might talk a little bit about what we're doing at later in this conversation, but the main focus is really going to be on this upcoming event. And I think probably in our audience, a good number of people already know who you are, just given the nature of our audience, but there might be some people who don't know. And so I wanted to just open first and invite each of you to introduce yourselves, say a little bit about your background and your connection to integral practice, embodied practice, leadership, anything like that. Who would like to go first? Maybe T?
Sure, I'd be happy to go first. Well, my connection to Integral goes back quite a ways. I was part of the open space forum that first came up with the term ILEA, which was Integral Leadership in Action, in the spring of 2004. So that's been 20 years ago since Integral Leadership in Action was conceived, and have watched that organization grow and develop and morph over the past 20 years. And as the name implies, what we're most interested in are the ways in which Integral can have effect in the world and have impact through leadership of all kinds, not limited to just organizations, but leaders in education, leaders in politics, leaders in family dynamics, leaders in therapeutic situations. So we're excited with this event, calling it the Integral Embodied Conference, and we'll talk a bit more about that later. But my primary focus professionally has been in leadership development, coaching, training, and consulting work. And I try to bring as much of the integral approach and mindset to that practice as is possible in today's world.
I can jump in. So I'm a career educator, and my background is fine art, and practiced. I'm a guide, but the higher education, I've served in higher ed a lot of different kinds of roles and taught in a lot of different kinds of subjects. I think No Boundary was the first Ken Wilber book I ever read. And that was it really impressed me. It, reorganized my epistemology first and then my life. But I think I put it on the shelf for about a year, and then I devoured everything I could get my hands on. So I go back. I'm not sure if I wasn't at the first ILEA T, but I was at some of those early ILEAs. I remember having the honor of being there with Don Beck and many others. I'm interested, just say briefly, in how ILEA is really participating with the maturation of integral thinking and the application, which we all know is kind of the linchpin for our world right now. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Wonderful, thank you.
Nice. All right. So I'm the newest member to Integral, officially the latest entry. So I found Integral because I am a basically I look for tools and then I teach tools. And I've been in tech for my entire career, building out internet websites in the early days, and then moving to like cloud technology. And now I'm really, really into AI, as Bruce and I sometimes talk about. So I was really into personality types, and I was listening to a lot of material on that. And then one of my favorite personality podcasts, Personality Hacker, started talking about spiral dynamics. And I was like, oh, this is a really good, useful way to think about things, models and tools. And then I dove in and started looking for more people to talk to about it, and found some internet communities that I got really involved in. And I have volunteeritis. So I got involved and started leading. And then I found ILEA when I went to Sedona. I went to Sedona I was completely open to the possibilities, on the frothy edge of the future, as Bruce said during one of the sessions. I was like, yes. And I met T and the group at ILEA with Tyler Davis, and they kind of like just roped us in, and we've been really innovating. We got involved in Icon, got that off the ground with our 401(c) backbone. And we are really excited about this embodied integral. I'm a tech person, but I'm also a yoga teacher. And I just think that we're missing, and we're going to talk a lot more about this embodiedness to integral. And I'm really excited about this event, but I know, Bruce, we're going to get into it. So that's me, Bett Bollhoefer in Oakland.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I definitely want to get into that. One thing that very frequently circulates is and it's a Mark Foreman sometimes calls it a zombie criticism, which is it's a criticism that comes around, and no matter how you address it, it seems to just keep coming back. And even if you have really good ways of addressing it, it keeps coming back. And so one of the criticisms around integral is that it's heady and disembodied and very, very much focused on the abstract. And I really think, while there is, of course, some truth to that, I take two ways of looking at that. One, somebody like Sloterdijk, who looks at even that internal deep work that you're doing with abstract reflection is a kind of embodied work. But two, that there is much more going on, and that's, I think really worth talking about and exploring in terms of how people actually are putting this in action and embodied. And there's so many ways. And so I hope maybe this conversation could be the headshot. We can finally get the zombie knocked out and really show, some really good examples of integral embodied and what you're wanting to bring with this conference and highlight in this conference. And just if you can, I don't know who would like to maybe set it up and frame it first, but yeah, introduce the conference. What is, I've seen, I think there are about 12 instructors, and I've looked over the curriculum. It looks really great. A lot of practice opportunities and a lot of things to explore. So love to hear about.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I'll take
great,
it.
great.
T looks relieved right now. All right, so the board of ILEA is very tight. We're very tight knit. We talk. I would say we're friends. We're good friends. We text each other, and we have been planning this minimalistic event. By the way, just to, there's all these little things that ILEA cares about, like don't call it a conference. I'm not really that worried about names. I don't really get into that, but it's really an event. We want to call it an event. It's 3 days, and you can kind of set it up in contrast to other events. And like, for instance, I loved What's the Future, where I met Lisa. Lisa and I were roommates. I met T that day, or that weekend. But the truth is, as much as that was great, it had some flaws. And I'm always trying to improve things as an agile person from software. And I think there are some things that we found that were a little bit not great. And we really envisioned from that event this new thing, this new kind of we space. So let me just go through some of the things. It's going to be very small, 80 people. The venue only allows 80 people. So it's intimate. We're going to get to know each other. Next, the room. We're going to have a big circle. A circle of chairs. If you have been to Icon in in May 2024, you'll remember T's event where it was a big circle. It's going to bring that kind of spirit in. Next, no FOMO. Problem with Icon, again, I'm going to keep contrasting just because it's helping people think. There was, I think, 4 or 5 rooms. Each had incredible speakers. I mean, top level. My best friends were in each of the rooms. Basically, I couldn't see all the people I wanted to speak. And that was ripping me apart. And at the end of the day, I was just staying in a hallway exhausted because I couldn't decide which of my best friends to go see. And so in the hallway, you're having these conversations. You're the lights are going on. You're piecing the pieces together. We want to bring all those best moments from these past events and have it all in one place, single threaded. There's no remoteness. It's presence. We're not recording anything. There's no Zoom. We're keeping it really minimalistic and lots of space between sessions. We have a room that's for yoga and meditation that's always open. So if you're just I can't handle, I'm going to go sit and process. We'll have a cafeteria where we're going to have chats and networking. So single threaded, small, and no FOMO, just us together. And each session is really long. Okay, 90 minutes, 60 minutes. There's no this TED Talk, just get all the PowerPoints up there. Really, nothing like that. It's going to be embodied. It's going to be practices. And ILEA is all about in action. We want to bring tools that you can bring right back to your daily life when you leave the conference. Applicable, practical. Did I miss anything, T or Lisa?
Another contrast, which maybe is apparent, but it will not be a series of presentations by talking heads. Instead, it'll be experiential activities where people can engage themselves fully in a multitude of dimensions, but also connect with others in intersubjective ways. And that's a particular area of interest of mine, and a particular area that I'm looking to explore during this conference is, what does it mean to be intersubjectively embodied? And what does that look like? What does that feel like? How does that show up? And what does that actually mean? So we can talk more about that later, but yeah, I think you've done a good job, Bett, of sort of differentiating what we're looking to create and co-create with participants who will be there during this 3-day session.
The only thing I would add is that there's a meta arc of the journey. So the format is really graspable, for anyone to think about the whole arc of the experience being these different moments of preparation and immersion in the journey, not specifying, that's for each individual to determine exactly how they're in relation to journey, but that's all baked in, a process of folks, declaring our intentions and setting out for this journey, and then what practices will we need along the way. So there's the motif of practices, and Adam Leonard, one of the authors of Integral Life Practices, will be with us. So Terry Patton is no longer with us, sadly, and I don't believe Ken will be there, right? But again, kind of a pretty groundbreaking book, Integral Life Practices, kind of an updating of the whole Integral Life Practices. So we have threads. One of our threads that Bett and I will be working on is circadian health, and another one is conflict and negotiation, and another one is dialogue. So people, even though it's a cohort experience where we're going to be moving through it together, there's still the sense of little mini threads within the journey.
Yeah, I just want to add, sorry, T, really quickly, another thing that we like to say in ILEA world is we're not having presenters, we're having facilitators. And we are working so closely with our facilitators to create this co-creation of experiences. And we're being very clear, we want every session to be embodied, to be collaborative, people getting in small groups or all together. It's really Collaborative. I think collaborative is a big word that comes up. T, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was simply going to build on what Lisa was saying about some of the topical areas that will be included in the experiences there. And in addition to sort of the affirming pieces, there will also be opportunity to explore embodied shadow. And there's also a session on pain. So we're looking to cover the spectrum, if you will, of embodied experiences.
And who is this conference for? Who are you really wanting to attract?
I wanted Lisa to take this one. And before Lisa comes off mute, I just want to say this is April 3rd through 5th. Let's do some concrete. April 3rd through 5th, 3 full days. And we're hoping to have evening entertainment and walks and sunset viewing and morning sunlight viewing. And also it is in Boulder, Colorado, USA. Just a quick thing. But Lisa, I think you have some really exciting visions on who's going to be at this event that we're hoping to pull in.
Well, I do have a personal wish, that I'd love to share. I think, as we were starting to say before we started filming, what a moment we're in. Here we are in the thick of a planetary meta crisis. We've created this perfect, mythology to rouse collective action and response in the world. And of course, there are myriad ways, myriad actions that could be defined as response, but it just seems like such a perfect opportunity and we need many more of them. But what my hope is for intersubjective, as Terry said, intergenerational learning. I feel like that's what we really need the most practice with in that theme, in lifelong learning. Today in this moment is always the best time to cultivate friends of virtue and practice partners and mentors and apprenticeship opportunities with folks that I know I had those opportunities to work with elders who have their 10,000 hours and then some. And then it's mutual. There's this wonderful opportunity to heal the intergenerational rifts in communication and understanding and forgiveness and care that sometimes get, overlooked. So I think it's really, really time. Everything bold and bodacious and wonderful that we want to create for this world will depend on that intergenerational intersubjectivity. And so integral, really it holds that promise, acknowledging that we're still in a journey of embodying it and enacting it. And I hope we can get back to the zombie critique at some other later point in today's discussion.
Yes. So Lisa, what I'm just going to summarize what I'm hearing from you, Lisa, is we want all ages. We want people from all backgrounds, dancers, artists, theologians, doctors, lawyers, accountants, musicians, right? We want everyone to come in and share what practices are helping them. How are they seeing the world? What are the struggles? We want people from all backgrounds to come in and find tools. Another big thing is there's no integral test before you sign up. You don't even need to, honestly, I've looked at the agenda. I'm working with our team to pull the agenda together. There's nothing like integral theory. Like you can get that already on YouTube. You can go to other sessions. We're really about how do we live in this chaotic, insane world and keep our sanity and stay centered. Really, and also what is so exciting, if anyone went to Icon and saw what T did, how do we create spaces where we actually hear from all different perspectives and find how to build solutions? So it's really actionable. in that. So I think practitioners of all kinds, people who are just learning, people who don't know what integral means, I want them all at this event because it's really no barrier to entry. Come as you are, there's no prerequisites. So does that help, Bruce?
It does. It looks like that sparked something for Lisa too.
Thanks. Yeah, Bruce. Yeah, so low barrier to entry. And I would add to what Bett just said, yeah, integral curious and anyone, especially emerging leaders, however you would define that, emerging activists, those who feel the urgency of our time and would be keen to, it takes some courage to participate with mending intergenerational othering.
Yeah.
So anyone that feels really a pull toward that, there's Nathaniel Chalkin's going to be there, Adam Leonard, as I mentioned before. There's going to be some really, really experienced folks that just the opportunity to, it's like, it's very different to read Integral coined the phrase, the performative contradiction, famous Wilburism. And we're all in the performative contradiction until we internalize that new truth and make it part of our life practice. So, yeah, to folks that feel pulled to be in the energetics and embodiment of a field of people who have done their work.
Yeah, my way,
and bringing your own expertise to it. Sorry, Terry.
no, my way of thinking about that is we're looking to attract individuals with those intentions that you've touched upon, Lisa, but who are also willing to leave this event in the form of a movement. The meta crisis that we're facing is not going to be a hero's solution. It's going to require a collective movement. And so I think what we're looking for are people who are interested in that community, looking to those relationships, looking to communion as a way of addressing the world in which we live.
Roy Bhaskar sometimes uses the phrase, critical realist Roy Bhaskar, he sometimes uses the phrase about seriousness in terms of you aren't really serious about a philosophy unless you put it into action, right? Unless you really take it into the world and you embody it in multiple ways. And so the way I'm hearing all of you frame this is that this event is, in a sense, an invitation to serious play for people who are deeply concerned about how we can navigate the tumultuous, probably several years ahead or more, as things are coming to a head with our meta-crisis conditions. And one thing I was just thinking about is, it's interesting, you get different perspectives. So in the university programs that I work in, which have integral themes in them, we're getting people coming to the program and interested in taking these journeys from multiple age groups, from the 20s, up to 60 or 70, right? And so we see a pretty broad range of life experience and background and generational differences. So for me, I see the appeal that is there across generations. But if you went to the Sedona event or the Denver event, you mostly saw 40 and up people, right? And a lot of people were walking around saying, where are the younger people, right? And they're there. And I have personal experience of many being engaged and inspired and doing things. But for whatever reason, those events didn't seem to attract that. So it sounds like with what you're doing, you're really aiming to have that broader appeal and speak to those different demographics.
Absolutely. And so I'm married to a millennial, so I get to be Gen X, but also millennial. And if I told him, like, hey, go to a conference and sit for 8 hours or 10 hours or more a day in a dark room watching a bright PowerPoint, I mean, he would do anything except that. He's a musician. He loves dancing. Like, I think the younger generations won't tolerate this. So this is the opposite of that. It's going to be all embodied. We're going to have musical. We're going to have ritual. I think that's another big contrast. Purple, and I'm just like thinking about the heart chakras and all the chakras because I'm a yoga teacher. But I think ritual is what people want, and I think the younger generations are yearning for that. So yeah, we want to get them involved and bring them in. And we still have some spots open for facilitators. So if there's anyone who has something really that they're working on that they want to bring to a wider audience, please let us know and we'll put contact information. Bruce, people can reach out.
Great. Yeah, I'll put some links and things in the description for the video. And of course, people can, contact any of us. And you, in some of what you've covered so far, you mentioned a few names. Would it be helpful to go over a little bit about, in more detail about who's so far scheduled to present and what they're doing?
All right. So I'm going to start with T. He's going to have intention setting at the beginning. What are you bringing in? It's more of a personal experience. And then Lisa and I'm so excited about this. We're still kind of brainstorming and pulling this together, but circadian health. We're bodies, and we're made of cells that are millennia old, and they have all of this knowledge and wisdom. And we live in these artificial environments that Lisa will go on and on about, and I will too. But we're going to make it concise, and we're going to really make it about what are the practices you're bringing into your day just to be connected with nature, right? And we're hoping to get out to some land. There's a lot of things that we're working on to get us outside. All right. And then we're going to have, so lunch is going to be there. By the way, we're catering, and I am all about having high quality food. And I've worked hard on the budget to make sure that we can buy the highest quality food that we can, reasonably bring in. And then I am so excited about Holly Woods, who I met at Sedona. And she has a 4-part workshop that she's breaking up over the days where you can, it's called Navigating Our Wild Future, Becoming an Emergent Being. And she's so passionate about this. And we have a little video on our website where she digs into that. Then Tyler and I are doing a session on pain. Tyler Davis is also a millennial, and he is a fitness coach. And we're going to be exploring in different modalities that are safe and accessible for people with, whatever physical handicaps or things that they have going on. But where does your mind go when you get into discomfort? And then how can you explore your life? Maybe you're a business owner and you really need to hire someone to help you with the bookkeeping, right? Like, how can you detect that pain? And what are your numbing techniques? I think this is a bit like we live in a society full of numbing techniques. There are opiates, YouTube, whatever you want, you can find it. So what are your numbing techniques? So Tyler and I are going to be playing with that. We have Namali Pierre, am I saying it right? Herrera, thank you. And she's going to be running some things around living empowerment out loud. She's got a lot of stuff, and she's very, very involved. And we're going to be doing some stuff with Integral Life also. Adam Leonard, a star. He's amazing. He's local. So I know him, like I get to see him occasionally. I'm in Oakland. All right. So Integral Life Practices Revisited, integrating learning and practices. So he's called it 2.0, as Lisa sort of mentioned, of his book, upgrading, updating, reviewing. Where are you right now? What do you need? And then Nathan Chow. I'm so bad at last names. That's why I don't care if people say my last name. How do you guys say his last name? Chowkin. Deep self-inquiry, embodied integral shadow work. And I've heard from him on our sessions that they're going to be bringing him and Adam are going to do some kind of thing with martial arts. I don't know the details. All I know is it's going to be really cool. And That's like that's the highlights. Am I missing anything? Michael, oh yeah,
Michael
Michael
Mackin.
Macklin is going to be doing micro practices, and he shared this recently at San Diego Integral. Huge hit. In micro practices, he has a little template, and we're going to be developing those in real time that we can then bring back to our day. So we're building our own micro practices for ourselves. So it's not him telling us the best thing to do. He's actually helping us. So those are the highlights. And like I said, we're still open to have more facilitators. So if people have things they want to bring in, it's a spacious agenda with lots of air and breaks.
Yeah, and it's interspersed with a lot of moments of, gathering and integration time. So there's what I like about it is it's spacious. It doesn't have that packed feeling like we don't want the event to feel, it's a work party. It's a serious play time. It's not, it shouldn't feel like efforting. It should be a joyful thing. Terry, I wonder if you could say more about your session, because I'm curious what you're going to be doing, because I missed Icon.
Sure. Well, actually, I'm sort of bookends. I'm doing a front end piece, short piece, getting everyone together around their individual intentions on the front end. What are they bringing into this session for themselves? Looking at the agency portion of that. What hopes do they have for the collective going through this experience? So there's a front end piece to get everyone sort of in touch with and using some embodied processes for doing that work. And then the bookend piece at the end would be more of an integration piece, pulling things together. And that would be an opportunity to look at the communion aspect of this, the intersubjective component, and what's coming out of this by way of our relationships and as a movement going forward. So that tells you a little bit about how I'm thinking about bookending the experience. So agency on the front end and communion, intersubjectivity on the tail end.
Uh-huh.
I was wanting to ask a little bit more about the intersubjectivity piece running through the program. And a lot of people in integral communities, or also maybe some metamodern circles, when they hear about intersubjectivity, they think mostly something like a we space practice. And looking at your curriculum, it doesn't really look like explicit we space practices, but it's more generally embodied principles of intersubjective practice running throughout. But love to hear your thinking around that and how you've structured it.
Yeah, I think that's an acute observation. It's not really about teaching intersubjective embodiment, but it's going to be the tone and the methodology that's sort of underlying the entire event. And so, yeah, we want to create that connection. Connection being an embodied term, and so, yeah, I think you've picked up on the thread there, Bruce. It's less explicit and more implicit in the ways in which the event will unfold.
And in that sense, it's a bit of a departure from past ILEAs. I was talking to Bett yesterday about this, that you could think, in a way, the innovation of integral leadership and action was, it was a lower left and lower right kind of emphasis. And this is a bit of a turning inward in order to resource ourselves. Or that's how I'm not on the planning group or the board, but that's how it's landing for me so far.
Bett, do you have anything you would add to that piece?
I think these are good observations. I think that what's not in the agenda is the cafeteria, where we're going to be setting up little cards where people can have discussion groups. We're planning some kind of art project that can be continuing, maybe like a big canvas, and people can go put things up on the board about revelations or ways they want to change their, I don't know, change their life or change the world. Or so there's going to be other aspects besides these group sessions that people can be collaborating on and creating things together. So I think that's another piece of this that's hard to describe in that agenda that we have that's laid out very nice.
Or the integral theory conferences that took place. There were three academic integral theory conferences, and there was also an emphasis. There were a lot of presentations, a lot of slideshows, but there was also an art show and some dance and things like that. But one of the comments that you often heard, that I often heard after those conferences, was people really talking about how much they love the conference between the conference, which was the chances to connect in between those presentations. And so what I'm seeing in how you've organized this, I actually see that you are facilitating these in-between moments of encounter, but also it seems like the way you're structuring it, there's enough encounter in each event that it's not going to have to feel like you need to go outside the event to experience being with other people.
I think that's really one of the key design tensions, Bruce. You nailed it exactly. How do you strike that balance? There have to be, exits and alternatives kind of baked in, just to handle the natural human energies that are going to be there, and and we want to, I'm sure, invite, that deviance. That's what creativity is. It's that urge to, people get really lit up by the moment and then want to take that energy and create something. So yeah, hopefully all those things are possible. It'll be really interesting to see how it feels. I hope that's how it feels, is roomy enough to hold everything.
The person attending these sessions, sitting side by side, either in chairs or on the floor or laying on the floor, as whatever might be, will be experiencing the presence of other people, not objects sitting in a chair to which they don't connect, to which they don't interface. So yes, the sessions themselves will be all about fully presencing the persons in the room and again, building communion.
I don't know if maybe enough about this has already been said, but I was curious. You've kind of started setting that up in an earlier comment, I think, Lisa, but what were some of the precursor events to this, and how does this build on or depart from that in terms of the ILEA events?
Maybe Bett or Terry, be better capable.
Lisa and I were roommates in Sedona, and like the fact that humans have a body and that we're not just a brain with like a robot that carries it around. I think it's really important for us to like fully accept and embrace that we are a being. And I like to think of the chakras. Everyone's got different ways of viewing that. So what does that mean? It means we need nourishment. We can't just sit, our energy will fall, right? So I'm hoping people will get us up and move us around. We need community. We need to be able to talk to each other. So I'm hoping that facilitators, and these are things, when I say I hope, we're conveying this to the facilitators, that if there's little small groups, maybe people talk to their neighbor about something that's coming up for them during an exercise, right? So it's like we're a body, we need community, we need to eat well, which again, like practically, can we make sure we get nutritious lunch? Very important on these things. You can say like, oh, that's a value, but at the end of the day, if you don't prioritize it, it can fall to the bottom of the list. So also, like, I feel like Lisa and I are kind of soul sisters around light and trying to make sure we get out and having a sunrise and maybe sunset and a noon, like going out to eat lunch together in the sunshine with the catered lunch that we have. So these kind of things of we are a human, we are a being, we're going to respect all of that, having breaks so people can, like, you can't have so much fire hose of information into the brain. You need to be able to digest it. So I think those are all the things that really have come to me, and not just from poor previous, I don't want to just throw integral conferences under I go to all kinds of conferences. All of them are terrible. And it would be wonderful if we could teach some methods of how do you run these events where they're really special, but how can we respect the human being during these incredible events? So I know there's a lot of passion coming out of me. Anything else from the other?
I would just, I just say, there's such an awakening with the, meta-modern turn, that's going on, and just that the rewilding, so much, it's such a different world now with respect to how we're understanding our organism environmental coupling and how important that is. We've institutionalized things like smoke breaks and fast food, and now there's some, I always think about Kevin Kelly's book, What Technology Wants, where he points to the Amish because they have this beautiful, they're not Luddites, but they're very choiceful about what tech we adopt. And I think there's all these beautiful tech movements going on about, choices with tech. So yeah, it feels really like a fun thing to prototype. What will it throw the conference? Will it throw this experience out of joint too much if we have a solar noon break or a quick 15 minutes to look at the sunset? It would be fun to play with.
That kind of puts us in the direction of the zombie critique. So you want to take that one up a little bit? I really would love to hear just from your own, all of you, your own experience of working with this material in ways that, you actually feel flowers in your life and in the lives of others in a way that isn't, what it looks like, from the outside, from, the easy critiques that often circulate.
I do have a response if I could jump in. It would be, with here we are now, it's such a special time, but in this accelerating moment with AI, and there's, just so much attention about attention and how what it is to be human is changing so radically right now. So when I think back to, when I was young, and my first encounter with Integral, there were so many things that made it profound, but most people today probably don't even, I feel lucky that I can remember that moment when, an integral worldview, beginning with Gebser, but the chunking in of integral consciousness into how we coordinate and relate was so profound. So I think what I would say about the zombie critique is, that feels natural to me because there was so much unfolding with postmodernity and the pushback to modernity. So yes, it was all already, what I would say, how I relate to it is that all of that was already latent in the beautiful integral vision that Ken, channeled and laid out and articulated so beautifully. And yet, for me, it's been kind of more like a global performative contradiction, as there are in so many aspects of modernity, where we've had to kind of get it, but then grok it and, internalize it. So that's my take. But I think I'll just say it's very important because 30, 40 years from now, what will the future wish we had enacted at this incredible juncture? And that's just so profound. What feels, what will be the new thing that will be supplanting what's the most current way of, conceptualizing onto epistemology?
From a personal standpoint, what I carry within me is meeting the world, and impact has always been very central value for me, and having impact in the world and enabling and empowering others to have impact in the world has also been very, very important to me. And for me, that's been a constant thread in the integral movement and my understanding of integral from the very beginning, because perhaps it's my own spin on it, but it's crucial. And I think we've seen, thesis and antithesis and synthesis numerous times in this movement, and each time I think it sort of moves us in a larger, more emergent, more transcendent direction. And as long as I'm alive, I want to continue to help nudge the evolution in that direction. So, yeah. Phantoms aside, zombies aside, I think there's a lot of grist for the mill here to keep things moving.
Both of you said incredible things and using vocabulary that was amazing. I'm going to just say it the way I'm going to say it. So I have always been about building practical tools for whoever I'm serving. And right now I am teaching yoga to Oakland residents at the library. That's one of my main places. And what I see from my students is they don't know when they're supposed to be sleeping. They play games all night on their phone. They're getting all kinds of unnecessary surgeries because they're on the county's health service and the doctors are like, you should have this surgery. And they're like, I guess so. My doctor told me. They don't know how to negotiate for themselves. I'm just letting you know, these are the things I'm seeing. They eat the things that they buy at Target and at Walmart because they're like, well, if they're selling at the store, it must be okay. And they don't know to read the box. Anyways, I could go on and on. And I like to think of it as holes in your spiral. Holes in your spiral. And I see a big hole at beige, huge holes at purple, and throughout there's a lot of red, and there's not a lot of blue, right? So we have all these holes in society spiral, and we have a lot of green, right? And it's like when we try to build a society where we're all moving up, I mean, not that everyone has to do that, right? It's like I just see these holes at the bottom that are really causing havoc. As someone who's also in the tech world, who loves AI, and I'm just playing with it every day, I just see that we're leaving people behind, both physically, their bodies are being destroyed. They don't have this idea. Like, I was talking to this young lady one day in Toastmasters that I'm very involved in, and she said, oh, I'm worried about the digital divide. I think that poor people are not getting tech. And I'm like, no. They're on their tech all the time. Meanwhile, Jonathan Haidt is teaching rich people about put the phone away, get it out of your kids. Meanwhile, the poorer kids are like addicted. They're playing games all the time. And these are that's hacking the dopamine systems. Anyways, I'm going to get on my soapbox here. So I think we need to really understand how to talk to people at all the levels and communicate to them tools and how to understand the mechanisms so that they can live a healthy life wherever they are. And also, we cannot leave people behind. I am very worried that we're leaving whole strata of the society behind. And we need the smartest people to bring their brains to the table, create these lead spaces that T gives us tools how to do, because we need to figure out totally innovative new things. We're at the frothy edge. We have no idea what's happening. We need to embrace uncertainty. I'm pulling all this stuff in from all of you. We need everyone. And anyways, Bruce, you can tell I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm very excited. Let's get together and let's solve the biggest problems of the world. I'm going to breathe now.
Here. Yeah. It's been wonderful to hear about this, and it really does sound like, what we need. I think there's a lot of people feeling anxiety entering this new year, and it really actually doesn't matter, I think, which way people voted, but I think a lot of people looking at this coming year. Nevertheless, many people are feeling that we're in for some turbulent times, one way or the other, and really having an opportunity to be together as people in embodied practice, embodied connection is just, especially as much as people are addicted now to this kind of meeting over Zoom, right? It's just wonderful to create those oases. So I'm really happy to hear about what you're doing. And with my own program, I think I've got obligations at the end of April, but it looks like I might be able to get away and come join you in early April. I think I can justify it as a work expense. So I'm really going to work for that.
Do
Love
it,
to have you.
Bruce. It would be great to have you with us.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah. So is there anything else that you'd like to really, share with those of us, those who are watching us today, just about the
Yeah.
event and what you want to bring and invite?
Well, I actually want to share that ILEA is really, we're in action. We're putting things in action. We are here to serve leaders in action. And we have 2 meetings a month that are on Zoom. We call them support pods. We have a creative writer support pod and we have a general support pod. And these are for people who are doing the work. They're in the world, they're doing the work, they're running into challenges. They're not just creating new PowerPoint, diagrams. As much as I love diagrams, it's people who are doing real projects. And I'm very proud of this. It's building a following. So you can go to ILEAnow.org to learn more about those. And my vision for this is the network state. If anyone's a big fan of Balaji Srinivasan, but he created a book where you create this group of people who are on the same value network and across the whole planet, and then they kind of land either virtually or in person every once in a while to commune. But my idea is to get these kind of support pods in every time zone across the planet. But we're starting small. We've got 2 of them, and I really think this is a place for people to come together. We're doing a project in the world. Come and share it with us and get feedback and support. And we meet every month, twice a month, in those 2 different venues. And the dates and times are all listed on the website.
Wow. So if you're called to create the ILEA network state, and if you really feel that call in your body, get in touch and please join us.
Absolutely. Bruce, you had mentioned earlier that you may talk a bit about some of your latest developments. I'd be interested what connections you see here and hear a little bit about the work that you're engaging in.
Sure. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of affinity that I'm feeling with what you're up to. Ours is a much longer commitment. It's an 11-month process. It really grew out of somebody working in the tech world who was going through his own deep revaluation in terms of what he wanted to do in the world and going on a spiritual journey and an internal quest, but also really looking at new forms of organization, new forms of economics, all those kinds of things. And he wanted, after many years of his own journey, to help seed a school, a training program that could maybe scaffold some of that kind of developmental journey that he went through in an unstructured way for people who are, leaders in multiple areas, not only in the tech world, but, anyone who really is looking to make some kind of difference in the world. And so that was the initial impetus behind the program. And then it's grown over time. Some of the early focus groups, one of the strongest notes that was repeated by anybody in the focus groups was, please don't make this about just reading books and learning new ideas. Really make this embodied and experiential and practical and a series of co-learning experiences. And so the whole program, which I've been involved in, it started about a year and a half ago, and I've been involved for about a year in putting it into its final shape. But that it's all built around that, a deliberately developmental, co-learning, collaborative, embodied experiential journey. It really tries to hold multiple threads at once. So There's a contemplative piece that begins at the very beginning. There's some intensive meditation practice that takes place over about 8 weeks at the very beginning. There are leadership maturity developmental assessments, and also state assessments that are given at the very beginning and at the very end of the program to see what people have done over that time. And there are a lot of threads holding big picture, understanding our place on the earth, in the Anthropocene, and in the larger cosmic journey. People like Brian Swim and other people helping to hold that. There's a lot of grounding in nature and nature practice. People guided, all of the experientials are at Asilomar. So we have a lot of outside guided nature practice, ritual. We have people who are leadership experts coming in. Ginny Whitelaw teaching Zen embodied leadership and resonance work, and Greg Thomas teaching jazz principles and how you work together as groups with jazz and musical metaphors. We've got Joanna Macy's style work around the work that reconnects, and thinking about our time of planetary initiation. We've got a module focused on AI and transformative tech, and what is the place of an embodied conscious leader in a world that's going to be more and more divine, structured around AI agents and things like that. And what do we uniquely have as humans, and what can we bring as creative agents and leaders who can work collaboratively with AI to create, environments that are generative for people and that keep them in touch with their bodies. So yeah, there's many, many threads. It's a lot to talk about. But I think, just from what we've explored here, you can probably feel that there's a lot of resonance with where you're leaning and what you're wanting to do. So I will definitely tell our students about your event in April. And yeah, I think, probably there's definitely, not probably, there should be, I think, significant overlap in terms of interests and guiding vision.
Great. Thank you so much. It sounds really great.
Yes, thanks. Thanks for that, Bruce.
Very
I guess
exciting.
Yeah, thank you. One other piece I would put in there is, we have, there are about 35 instructors, Ian McGilchrist and Jude Curvin and Alexander Laszlo, and I mean, lots of people who are, big names around the world doing big things. And so all of that's there, but we also have 3 facilitators, and I just had the meeting with the facilitators yesterday, kind of putting the final touches on what we're doing, but it's a braiding process that we're really up to. My job is to kind of hold the conceptual integration module to module and tell the story of what this learning journey is. Another person who's a film producer is going to help everybody digest the material individually and narrate it as, a story for themselves in terms of what they're digesting. And then somebody else is going to work on the contemplative side. And after the 8 weeks of training, basically about 8 months of coaching work to help people stabilize insights, work through blockages, things like that. And one of the things that we really want to hold in this is absolute unknowing and storying. And we need to have both of those things at the same time. So we don't want you to only get lost in story or only be we want to non-dually hold both of those and walk people through how you can actually integrate both the open spaciousness and connecting to narrative.
Wow, sounds fabulous.
Are you still accepting students, or what's the timeline on that?
Yeah, we are. We're accepting students until the end of this month, actually.
My husband's probably going to try to stop me from signing up, but I'm gonna look into it.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's been a delight to hear from all of you and what you're bringing to this event in April. It sounds, I think, it actually has the promise to attract a lot of people who are across a wider age group, and I really hope that happens. I think this intergenerational piece that you want to highlight is really important. that's also one thing we want to look at in this program too, which is situating ourselves in relationship to our ancestors and our descendants and really thinking deep time about that. And so you can't really do that well if you can't even do that with the few generations that are
Right.
right here, right now.
Love it. Wow.
All right. Well, thank you.
This has been fun. So,
A lot of fun. I'm excited to hear what you're doing. And yeah, I will get this edited and up and available for people to be able to watch, hopefully very soon. So when people are watching this, they'll know that hopefully I'm going to say this to keep myself to my word, that this conversation only took place a few days ago. All right.
Yeah.
So now I have to do it.
Early bird tickets are still on sale as of this recording.
Great.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Bruce, and happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce, so much. We really appreciate you. And thanks, T and Lisa, for coming out today.
My pleasure.
it's all been fun.
Good. Thanks very much.
See you
Take care.
soon.